NewsNation can confirm
tonight
an arrest has reportedly been made in the quadruple stabbing death of 4 college students.
2,500 miles from Moscow, Idaho, the twist that no one saw coming.
We have an individual in custody who committed these horrible crimes.
Why did you do it?
Brian! Do you understand?
Yes.
And the chilling revelation that a criminology student may just be one of the most sought-after criminals.
I looked at the picture and I was like, I couldn't believe who it was. It was Bryan Kohberger.
But this mystery is just starting to unravel.
I said early on that we're not going to let any stone go unturned, and I meant that.
And the dots are just starting to connect.
He was always showing up a little late.
And he told me he's fascinating on what he's doing and stuff like that.
Tonight, what led investigators across the country to Bryan Kohberger's front door? And what could bring the families of Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan one step closer to a conviction?
There's going to be somebody there looking him in the face and letting him know that this isn't going away anytime soon.
A NewsNation special report, Idaho Murder Mystery.
This is just the beginning.
Starts right now. Good evening, I'm Brian Entin, live from outside the jail in Moscow, Idaho for this NewsNation special report. For more than a month now, I have been here as this town and really the world was trying to make sense of what happened inside the home where 4 college students were brutally murdered. At the time, we did not know a lot. Some worried that this case would never be solved. But this past week, so much has happened. A suspect charged, and with that, an arrest document that laid out how police connected Bryan Kohberger to this crime. Tonight, we are taking you through these major developments step by step, the facts of the case and what we still don't know. We're going to dive into the forensics, the DNA, the cell phone data, and how this could all lead to a conviction. And we are going to remain centered on the victims throughout. Kaylee Goncalves, Maddie Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. Because at the end of the day, really, it is all about them, their families, their grief, and justice. I'm going to be joined by Kaylee's sister, Alivea. She is speaking out for the first time since the arrest was made, and we thank her very much for joining us tonight. But first, so many new details from a single document, changing almost everything we thought we knew about what happened on November 13th.
It seems likely that maybe they were sleeping.
That was the narrative about the 4 college students killed in the King Road home that we heard for weeks. But the new arrest affidavit paints a very different story. A night that had everyone in their rooms or asleep much later, at 4 a.m., except for Xana, who ordered food on DoorDash. After that, a surviving roommate notes a series of sounds that woke her up. What she thought was Kaylee playing with her dog. The words, "There's someone here," crying from Xana's room, and a male voice saying something like, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And then the most shocking of them all. According to the affidavit, the surviving roommate opens the door and sees what appears to be the killer, clad in black clothing with a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose, walking towards her. She describes him as not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows, and stood in a frozen shock phase as he walked past her and back out the sliding glass door. She then locked herself in her room. 911 was not called until 11:58 that morning.
But still this interesting question of she didn't call the police.
But it raises a question as what was happening in that period of time?
Obviously, you'd like to call right away. So you can have an immediate response and get on it. But unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world.
Investigators at the scene found 2 traces of a possible suspect, a shoe print just outside the door of the surviving roommate's bedroom, and a knife sheath that had K-Bar and USMC on it. A single source of male DNA was also found on the button snap.
A very subtle finding, if you will, on the sheath to find his connection there, find the DNA. And I think that's the money
As investigators scoured the neighborhood for cameras and clues, a car stuck out, the white Hyundai Elantra. It's the same car investigators asked for information about over and over again, insisting they wanted to speak to the occupants inside.
Do you believe that the killer was in that car?
We think that they were in the immediate area of the house, of the residence.
What we didn't know at the time was investigators knew it was Bryan Kohberger's car by November 29th.
He was under surveillance, I think, from the time that they realized that this is going to be where the evidence is leading them to.
On December 23rd, they got a search warrant for his cell phone records.
The data that is generated by a cell phone is quite alarming.
Those records put Kohberger near the crime scene at least 12 times before the murders. It's also in the area in the early morning hours of the crime and right after. Investigators believe the phone may have been turned off or in airplane mode in between. We believe that he fled the scene according to the probable cause affidavit. They described the route that they believe he took based on surveillance video and just a knowledge of the area. This is the house where the murders happened. We believe he came out the back door and then left in this direction. You can see on this map, police say Kohberger went way out of the way to get back to his home in Pullman, going down a country road and making it to his apartment around 5:30 a.m. 4.5 hours later, Kohberger's phone is near the Moscow house again from 9:12 to 9:21 a.m. and back home in Pullman by about 9:32. Later that day, there is another 3-hour window where the phone was out of service again. Investigators say that is consistent with the same location as the phone after the murders, perhaps retracing his steps one last time. And between November 29th and November 23rd, authorities surveilled Kohberger's car using license plate readers and cameras. And they got even more information during 2 traffic stops in Indiana on December 15th, when Kohberger and his father were pulled over for minor infractions.
Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU.
When investigators confirmed Kohberger's car was in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, things escalated. On December 27th, agents recovered trash from the Kohberger family home and sent it to the Idaho State Crime Lab for testing. It came back as a profile matching the DNA of Kohberger's biological father, a match for the DNA left on the knife sheath.
They have his DNA at the crime scene, they have his car in and around the crime scene, they have his phone not active around the crime scene. So all of those things work to put him there, but the essential question really is why?
I want to bring in Kaylee's sister now, Alivea. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Alivea. You know, I remember from when we first started communicating, when all of this began, you told me that you believed that this was going to be a stranger who came into the house. And according to the police, you know, you were right the way that all of this played out. But what did you think when you first learned that Bryan Kohberger was the suspect?
I think we always presume, innocence. I don't think it really hit me until the affidavit was released and I was able to kind of read that and process that. And then you not only have a name and a face, but, the beginnings of a case against him.
You have been working so hard behind the scenes, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, because in many ways your dad has sort of been the face of the family. But since the beginning, you've been digging into this and trying to find leads and sending things to the police. And you told me that, you didn't feel like you would be able to really grieve until there was an arrest made. Do you feel like now you're able to do that?
I think my family as well as myself are starting to get there. And it's kind of an odd time to do that, being that we still have such a long road ahead of us. But the relief that we all felt having a suspect in custody was, it was like, I can't even describe it. Like the weight of the world was lifted from our shoulders.
The court process now, though, I mean, that's, your dad has told me that can be overwhelming to think about, the fact that you guys are going to have to be in court. Do you plan to be at the hearings?
Yeah, every single one.
One thing back to the affidavit that I think a lot of people were surprised by was the fact that one of their roommates was awake. when the killer walked by, and that the 911 call wasn't made until hours and hours later. Do you know any more about why that might be?
I don't have any other information for that. I do know Dylan is really young, and she was probably really, really scared. And until we have any more information, I think everyone should stop passing judgments, because you don't know what you would do in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's people online, obviously, it's totally inappropriate at this point. And you're right, no one knows how they would handle a situation like that or what was really happening. I mean, we only know what's in the probable cause so far. Is there anything you've learned that connects Kohberger to any of the victims here? Last I talked to your dad, he said the family was looking for connections, but there wasn't anything really apparent at this point.
Yeah, I think we're still going to keep looking. I've had a lot of people reach out with, Instagram posts or even Spotify, or lots of connections that they've been able to find, and those are super valuable. All of those go over to, the Moscow Police Department, as well as the Idaho State Police and the FBI, because nothing is insignificant at this point, and everything is being looked through.
There's this feeling that many have shared that perhaps Kohberger was watching the interviews, was in the Facebook groups, was on Twitter. Do you get a sense that that might be the case, that he was almost watching all of this as it played out?
I do. A lot of that comes from the fact that he had visited the home so many times before, late at night, early hours. He's presented this pattern of behavior. He went back to the home the morning before police had been called, I think to see if his circus, so to say, had started to unfold. And I think that he would not have been able to refrain from engaging with the online communities, the theories, the conspiracies, and everything in between.
How did you first find out, Alivea, that there was an arrest?
My mom actually told me. I had been staying at her house. Me and my husband were upstairs, and she came up the stairs. It was probably around 11 o'clock at night, the day before the arrest had been made. At the time, we didn't know what state, and we didn't even have a name. We just knew that a suspect was in custody.
And what was your reaction when you were able to read through? I think I was texting you. I was in line in court trying to read the affidavit on my phone. What was your reaction when you were first able to read through all of it?
Yeah, to be honest, I think that that's been the hardest part of this, is to sit back and look at the totality of it. When my sister was FaceTiming me about a new egg bites recipe, he was planning his next visit to the home. And that's really difficult. It's really difficult not to wish that you had done more, wish that you had known more. But it's just the first step. A lot more evidence will come out. And I'm confident that Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, and the FBI have the right person. And I thank them from the very bottom of my heart.
Yeah, I had never really thought about it that way. When you go through the timeline and the affidavit and see all the dates of when the cell phones pinged, you can actually go back, and I know you talk to your sister every day, you can actually go back and think of your conversations from those specific times.
Yeah, the August 21st date, I can go back and remember the conversation that I had with Kaylee that day, and how normal everything was, and the fact that we had no idea, she had no idea, I had no idea that true evil was genuinely watching them.
So this is certainly something that your family never envisioned that you would be going through. But I think what's so amazing about you guys is you're already trying to turn this tragedy into good in some way. Can you talk a little bit about, I know you're in the early stages of perhaps setting up a foundation to remember Kaylee, but tell me about your family's plans going in that direction.
Yeah, so from the beginning, we've definitely wanted to set up something that's Kaylee and Maddie's legacy going forward. But for, up until there was an arrest made, we weren't really sure what that meant, what exactly we were standing for and standing against. And now that we are starting to be able to put some of those pieces together, we're really I guess, excited, I don't know if that's the right word, to be able to set up a foundation or a nonprofit or something in the girls' honor in some way to be able to help other families like us the best way that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be looking forward to that, and we'll, of course, want to share that information, and I know people want to know how they can help. Alivea, I don't think people realize, you've got kids, you're pregnant, you have in many ways been the backbone for your family behind the scenes. You've been very, very strong, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come on tonight.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for coming on. Okay. We're going to be sharing more ways about how you can actually help keep the memories of Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana alive. That's going to be coming up later in the show. We are live tonight, this entire hour, from Moscow, Idaho. Still ahead, what we know about Bryan Kohberger, his past.
I didn't know at the time that he was using me to drive him to get heroin until probably a couple of days afterwards.
His demeanor.
I did notice that he became a little chattier. He became a little more animated.
And what fascinated him most. Plus, a retired FBI agent spent weeks analyzing the case, why he's focusing on how Kohberger may have been trying to cover up the crimes, and why he says the knife could be something that helps the defense. Welcome back. We are live tonight in Moscow, Idaho. For 47 days, police were tight-lipped about what happened inside this house, giving basically no information about a suspect or even a person of interest. But what we didn't know was that they had someone in their sights nearly the entire time. Bryan Kohberger, a criminology student in neighboring Pullman, Washington. And as we dig into what we know about him, some of the pieces to this puzzle start to come together even more.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Xana, Madison, and Kaylee.
Bryan Kohberger, a criminology student, now one of America's most notorious inmates. He grew up in Pennsylvania. He attended high school in the area near the Poconos Mountains. A former friend telling NewsNation's Chris Cuomo that Bryan was bullied as a teenager.
He was always good to me. Now, over the years, that has changed. I know going into his senior year, he lost a lot of weight. It was then I hear that he might have become the bully.
She also claims Bryan had a drug problem.
And you had experience with him using you to try to get drugs, right?
Yes, he did use me, and I didn't know at the time that he was using me to drive him to get heroin until probably a couple of days afterwards.
An old running partner says when he heard about the arrest, he was shocked.
I looked at the picture and I couldn't believe who it was. It was Bryan Kohberger. I would text him like, hey, you want to go for a run? We'd go for 6-7 mile runs at night.
Bryan Kohberger.
Kohberger got his bachelor's degree here at DeSales University back in 2020 and then a master's degree from their criminal justice program. A spokeswoman for the school says they are absolutely distraught by what is happening. Something really interesting. There is a world-renowned forensic psychology professor who works here who reportedly actually taught Kohberger.
Joining me tonight is Dr. Catherine Ramsland. She is the forensic psychologist.
Dr. Catherine Ramsland, professor, consultant, and most famous for her in-depth interviews with Dennis Rader, known as the BTK killer.
He asked me to solve a series of codes, and I was willing to pass the test.
Dr. Ramsland wrote his autobiography, and she talked about it on NewsNation last year with Marnie Hughes.
He obviously liked the attention and the publicity then, and perhaps he still does now. Why give him a voice and a platform to share his thoughts and experiences?
I did this project because I wanted to benefit law enforcement, criminal justice, and psychology, and we want to learn about the early red flags in the life of someone like this who doesn't have the typical serial killer background.
Dr. Ramsland tells us she's not making any comments about Kohberger or the case at this time.
My first reaction was just like my stomach churned.
But Dennis Rader's daughter telling NewsNation the revelation concerned her.
Do you think he may have had any sort of communication with your father?
Knowing how personally connected Ramsland is to my father, I would not be surprised if Kohberger had at least tried to write my father.
Kohberger also worked part-time as security at his old high school. After getting his master's, he moved to Pullman, becoming a PhD candidate and teaching assistant at Washington State University, just across the border from Idaho. He lived in an on-campus apartment. The affidavit for arrest claims Kohberger applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in 2022, saying in his essay he was interested in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. He also posted a survey on Reddit asking for volunteers for a research study where he was studying the criminal mind. He wanted to know about the emotional and psychological considerations for people who had been convicted of crimes, asking questions like, why did you choose that victim? What was the first move they made? How did you leave?
He had to make absolutely sure you understood that he was small.
A former classmate giving insight into Kohberger's demeanor right before winter break.
I did notice that he became a little chattier. He became a little more animated. Mostly what I noticed, though, is he was always showing up a little late, and he was always showing up with a cup of coffee in hand. He seems like he was more exhausted.
Kohberger has not entered his plea yet. The father of victim Kaylee Goncalves saying this about seeing the man accused of killing his daughter for the first time.
I expected him to be a bigger monster and more intimidating.
I mean, I'm like, this is the guy?
Sitting in the county jail, and according to the sheriff, they're trying to accommodate his vegan diet. The reporter who interviewed Kohberger's aunt telling NewsNation's Ashley Banfield about Kohberger's so-called food fetish.
She said it went beyond being vegan. He required his aunt and uncle to buy brand new pots and pans for him to eat out of because he refused to eat from anything that had meat ever cooked in it. And she said it seemed to be an OCD type of situation.
Kohberger's immediate family saying in a statement, "We will continue to let the legal process unfold, and as a family we will love and support our son and brother. We have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence rather than judge unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions." For Kaylee's family, they say they now have a clear picture of what justice looks like.
Justice doesn't have a room where you can read books and you can go to school and you can have 3 meals and you can have your vegan diet. To me, that's not justice. Justice is when you leave the planet and the whole world is able to rejoice and be glad that you are not there.
Okay, so there is still so much left to uncover about this investigation, the evidence and the motive. We are live tonight from Moscow, Idaho. Up next, the bombshell that one of the surviving roommates saw the killer. Coming up, a retired FBI agent with a theory on why he may have spared her life. Plus, the tool that could eliminate unsolved murders once and for all. Welcome back to this NewsNation special report on the Idaho murder mystery, live from Moscow. The arrest affidavit for this case revealed so much that we did not know, 18 pages worth. But that's only just a piece of this investigation, the minimum, as some experts we talked to say. Some of it will come out in a potential trial. Other parts we'll have to lean on some of our experts to basically fill in the gaps until we find out more. Joining me now is retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon. Bobby, thank you so much for being with us. The first thing I want to ask you that has a lot of people puzzled is this surviving roommate who apparently saw the killer walk by. Do you think the killer saw her? And if so, why may he have spared her life?
Well, it's a great question, Brian, and I think he did see her, but looking at the affidavit with the phone records and where he was, I think he had a certain plan. There was a plan in place that he had for this house. So he was executing a plan as he thought it was going to go in his mind. Now, all of the times that people do this, things go wrong. He might have only planned on 2 victims, and it turned out to be 4. I think that the rage that he had that was building in the days and weeks leading up to the murders, I think all came out, and I think the opposite side of that rage is an adrenaline crash. And I think that after the 4th victim, it's entirely possible he crashed. He was simply so exhausted, and then you get kind of tunnel vision. He was looking to get out of that house as quickly as he could, and the other 2 people downstairs were not part of his plan, and so he walked right by her to get out of the house. So I think it's entirely possible he was simply too exhausted, and it wasn't part of the plan that he had envisioned.
One of the creepiest things about this for me when I read over the affidavit was that he is accused of coming back to the house. That's what the cell phone records indicate, around 9:15 in the morning after the murders. Is it possible, I mean, do you think he may have been going back to go back inside? Do you think he realized that he left the knife sheath there?
It could be, but I don't think so. I think this is sometimes classic criminal behavior where they revisit the scene of the crime. I think he might have gone back there to see if there were ambulances or police cars. He probably expected the police to be there already. And I think he went back to look for police or what kind of activity was taking part at the house. Sometimes the thrill, we've seen people stand behind police lines at fires. Arsonists do this a lot. And so I think that he was driving by to see basically the fruits of his actions. If there were, there should have been by that time a lot of police activity and ambulance activity. So I think that might be, it's impossible to tell. This is all speculation on my part, but I think it's quite possible that he was going back there to expect to see a lot of police activity.
Yeah, and like you said, we hear that people like this get a very weird, strange thrill from things like that. Let's talk about these traffic stops in Indiana. There were the 2 stops. Very suspicious. The FBI has come out and said that they didn't organize the stops. I mean, do you think it's possible that this was really just a coincidence that Kohberger and the dad got pulled over twice on the way back to Pennsylvania?
Well, I think it's possible now. I originally thought that it might have been orchestrated because it's an investigative technique that I myself used when I used to work the mafia in New York City. We used to have the NYPD radio cars, the uniform patrol, pull them over to ID who was in the car and things like that. So I think, I thought originally that at least the first one was orchestrated, probably not the second one, because you never want to do 2 of these too close together because the suspect can raise their suspicion that the police are onto them. So initially I thought the first one, particularly because it was a sheriff, and the sheriffs don't usually do traffic enforcement on the interstates. That's usually the state troopers, which the second stop was a state trooper. So I think when the FBI, they have no reason to lie that they didn't orchestrate it. This is a perfectly valid and legal investigative tool, and they wouldn't want to jeopardize the case by lying about it afterwards and things. So I think that, that if they didn't orchestrate it, now it could have been orchestrated by the Idaho State Police. That's something that people have said, and that's perfectly possible. But I think right now it might be just really a really weird coincidence.
Yeah, crazy coincidence. But you mentioned it. I mean, if it made him suspicious, there's the reports that once he got to Pennsylvania, he had the gloves on. He was moving the trash from his parents' house to the neighbor's house. So that all certainly came into play. I want to ask you about the knife, because I have heard, according to sources, that one possible defense strategy here could be trying to say that knife will not match up to the wounds. Do you think that could possibly come into play at a trial?
Well, it could, and the defense could certainly make that allegation. There will be very detailed testimony by the medical examiners and by people that are experts in wound patterns with this knife. Now, normally, depending on the stab wound, but sometimes you can actually match the knife up right to the wound. In this case, if the wounds are too graphic, if they're too gross, if they were too much together, you may not be able to get the exact knife fit in. So it all depends on the wound pattern. But I anticipate you will have the medical examiner or coroner give expert testimony for the prosecution. The defense will probably have its own experts come in and make an allegation exactly the way you described. I don't know that will prevail, but it's something the defense, is certainly open to trying.
So they don't discuss motive at all in the probable cause affidavit, Bobby. Do you think they know a motive at this point and just aren't revealing it, or you think they're still looking?
I think they've got an idea of the motive, and they're looking for more evidence of that motive. Now, remember, to me as an investigator, motive was the least important thing I did. I didn't, because most murder statutes, you don't need to prove why somebody does it. My main thrust as an investigator was, who did this crime and how do I prove it? How do I help the prosecution get a conviction? The why of it, the who, what, when, where, and why, the why of it was always the least important for me, unless it led to other things in the investigation, unless it is to blunt a defense motion, a defense assertion that it was, self-defense or something like that. So I think that prosecutors always like a motive. They always like to tell the jury the story of why this happened, but the why certainly is not needed for a conviction. It's not required by a statute. Most murder statutes don't require the why, but I think they have an idea, but that's always the most nebulous part of a case like this, is the why of it, because quite frankly, there is no rational reason to do this, and when we find out the why, it will be very unsatisfying.
Interesting. I only have about 15 seconds left. Real quick, they say they don't have the murder weapon. They may have found it and just not told us yet, but can they use the cell phone records to go back, follow his drive, and look for the knife?
I mean, they could. They could. It's a very long search, but there's a lot of area to search. I don't know if they're already searching or not, but they don't need the knife for a conviction, but it would be very, very nice to have.
Okay. Interesting. Bobby Chacon, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, coming up next, the key evidence and why getting a conviction is not always a sure thing. We're going to talk about it. We are live tonight in Moscow, Idaho. Still ahead, the fascinating and powerful world of DNA.
There is no reason we need to have serial killers.
How it changed the game for investigators in Moscow and for others all across the country. Plus, how rock solid is the Idaho case in a courtroom? So beside car movements and cell phone pings, what could perhaps be the most important element of this case is, if it goes to trial, is going to be DNA. We now know crime scene technicians expertly located evidence from the suspect at the scene. We asked NewsNation's Nancy Liu to look into the different ways DNA is used in crime fighting.
Brian, it's a technique called investigative genetic genealogy. It is relatively new, and it is solving cases at an incredible clip. DNA started cracking cases in the 80s. Tommy Lee Andrews, the nation's very first conviction. Going to prison for rape after Central Florida investigators used a lab paternity test advertised with a "wearing his daddy's jeans" slogan.
He's as despicable looking as I thought.
Fast forward to 2018. The Golden State Killer left behind DNA for decades, but the rapist and murderer, a police officer, had no DNA in the system. Then police turned to emerging genetic genealogy websites to connect to Joseph DeAngelo's relatives.
It's important to understand that we don't solve the case. We provide them the name of a person that most likely left the DNA.
Denver's former district attorney Mitch Morrissey co-founded United Data Connect after more than 3 decades as a prosecutor. He credits investigative genetic genealogy with an explosion of cold case arrests.
I've seen police officers bust tables in pizza restaurants and gotten saliva off of pizza and off of forks and that kind of thing.
That's how agents in Pennsylvania got a critical DNA match in the Moscow murders, scooping a piece of trash from the Kohberger family home in late December, sending it to the Idaho State Crime Lab. Technicians comparing that to a sample of a single source male's DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath. Reporting. A match with Bryan Kohberger's father, ostensibly using tried and true technology, the equivalent of the paternity test that convicted Tommy Lee Andrews.
We're working with second, third, fourth, fifth cousins and beyond.
Investigative genetic genealogist Cece Moore shows just how far the science has come, recently cracking the Honolulu murder of Nancy Anderson after 50 years. Well-preserved DNA got tested again more thoroughly, finding a retired deputy attorney general in Nevada. Similar to the Idaho case, police getting a DNA sample from his son before moving in to make the arrest.
That's you. That looks just like your mother.
Just last month, DNA helped a family reunite with Melissa Highsmith, who was abducted by a babysitter 51 years ago.
And I just started weeping and crying, and my daughters were crying, "She's alive, she's alive."
Genealogists stress there are only 2 companies sharing DNA profiles with law enforcement, and all those people have opted in.
It's a big misconception out there that we're able to use Ancestry DNA and 23andMe. They have over 40 million people in them. If we could use those databases, these cases would take an hour.
Cases where DNA is significant, 90% of the victims are women. The 10% that are left, about 9.5 are kids. So this is the science that we then add genealogy to when DNA hasn't been able to give us an answer that solves crimes against women and children.
In 4 short years, this DNA technique cracking around 400 violent crimes, mostly cold cases, an urgent push now on to put new killers in its crosshairs.
There is no reason we need to have serial killers, Ted Bundy types, serial rapists, because we can identify them after the first violent crime now.
In this case, science already vetted in courtrooms across the country, helping to reel in the suspected killer of 4 college kids.
They were able to quickly identify him, get him into custody. These hopefully were his only victims.
The FBI now has its own investigative genealogy capabilities. Most state crime labs contract that work out to private companies. Brian?
The defense team is already hard at work trying to poke holes in the case. We're going to dive into that part of the story coming up next. We are live from Moscow, Idaho. Next, meticulous planning and countless steps to make this case a slam dunk.
You don't want the slightest thing to happen.
Is it enough to get a conviction? The house in Moscow was once a single crime scene that seemed a Herculean task to process. It has now evolved to forensic investigations in 2 additional states, the processing of a car, and so much more happening behind the scenes. We asked NewsNation's Robert Sherman to look into all of the components of forensics and the judicial process that have to go right to actually win a conviction. It's such an important part of all of this, and Robert joins us now from the crime scene in Moscow tonight. Robert.
Good evening to you, Brian. And the goal for law enforcement at this point can be summed up in 2 words: investigation, perfection.
The 4 were stabbed with a knife, but no weapon has been located at this time.
From forensics in Idaho to pre-dawn capture in Pennsylvania.
It was on the door.
Force was used for evening search warrants.
Police, prosecutors, and the courts working hard to bring their A game.
And you don't want the slightest thing to happen.
Retired FBI agent Kathy Guider isn't surprised to see top-notch investigative techniques like 3D imaging used in the processing of the King Road murder scene. And crime tech spending more than 12 hours at Bryan Kohberger's Pullman, Washington apartment, carting off a computer tower and more. Also a routine part of a well-executed law enforcement script.
Every location that comes up, now you have more evidence teams out there, whether it's digital evidence, communication being part of that, whether it's fingerprints, shoe prints, all the different technologies out there. Very, very time consuming.
The investigation, evidence processing, even search warrants and Miranda rights must be perfect or the defense can pounce.
The one thing that I'm not seeing in this arrest affidavit is a motive for this crime. Did Mr. Kohberger know these victims? If not, the defense is really going to be drilling in on that.
Federal criminal defense attorney Tama Cudman looked over the gag order now covering the case. It's an extensive one, she says, and necessary for both the defense and the prosecution.
To the extent that any information is being leaked into the jury, they may be tainted. And if you want to have a fair trial, we have to protect them from these kinds of leaks.
What might seem like missteps, like the beginning of hazardous material cleaning of the house that abruptly stopped.
But the sheeting has come down.
We'll get scrutiny for potentially damaging Kohberger's due process.
Could be for the defense counsel, could be that they just want to hold it for a little bit.
We call that spoliation of the evidence in criminal defense lingo, and that is going to most certainly be an issue.
A new crime scene expert spent most of Tuesday in and out of the home. Hired by the defense, this forensic specialist is carrying 3D imaging technology, also used by detectives. He also specializes in crime scene reconstructions and blood pattern analysis, his career splitting nearly equal time testifying for and against criminal suspects.
Reporting.
How y'all doing today? The 2 Indiana traffic stops of suspect Kohberger and his dad are of little surprise to retired agent Guider.
You've got the people that are going to, look just at the linguistics of what did he say, why did he say it at that particular time. You are combing every part of that vehicle, seats, under the seats, the floor mats, every little piece is being evaluated for the potential evidence.
A former member of an FBI mobile surveillance team, she notes the deputies talk at a verification of who's behind the wheel, but it's the car and what it might hold that is just as intriguing.
I would caution everyone, most certainly we have enough information and evidence for probable cause to arrest, but that does not mean that we have enough evidence for proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Everything has to be meticulous from this point on.
A swirl of DNA evidence, digital data, and investigative procedure that must be spot on so that justice can be served for 4 young lives.
This whole community and nation was desperate for speedy answers, and at times it seemed as though this case might never be solved. But we now know less than 2 weeks after those murders took place, Moscow police was asking other law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for that white Hyundai Elantra. A cautious investigation yielding this arrest, Brian.
Thank you, Robert. We are staying centered on the victims and their families as we continue with this special live from Moscow, Idaho. Coming up next, how you can help honor the memories of Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana. Welcome back. It has been 8 weeks since the murders here in Moscow, Idaho, since 4 families' lives changed forever. And this town, really a beautiful, quaint, quiet, normally safe college town, was thrust into the national spotlight. And even Bryan Kohberger's family now in a situation that they likely never imagined they would be in. We will continue to follow the court process and every new detail we can confirm, not rumors or speculation, just only the facts. But throughout, we must all be mindful of the families. Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie's parents, brothers, sisters, and friends. There are things you can do to help. Xana's family has set up a scholarship endowment at the University of Idaho. Ethan's fraternity, Sigma Chi, also has a memorial scholarship fund, and Kaylee and Maddie's family, as you heard, they are in the process of setting up a foundation to try and make some good out of this awful, awful tragedy. We will continue to be here. We will be in the courtroom Thursday covering this case for however long it takes for justice to play out. We thank you so much for watching this NewsNation special report. Join us for a Twitter Spaces conversation on Twitter in a couple of moments. And for now, I am Brian Entin, live in Moscow, Idaho.